Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. NBA Finals. Sorry for the late start, everyone. We actually had to calm down ourselves for a minute and just kind of dissect what we just witnessed. Big shock in the NBA. The Miami Heat evening up things with the Denver Nuggets. With me, my co-host, Mr. Mike Zappy. I got so much to say about this game. What's your instant reaction, Mike? This was wild.
The first thing I'll start off with is ever since I had this made, or ever since I made this, should I say, we have been in first place, and yet we continue going. What a sweep. Look, there was a lot of things that could have gone either way. You could talk about officiating. You could talk about this. Miami still had to come back in this game, and they did that. And then they had to finish this game. We should have never been in this position, first of all. For Denver to have blown a lead the way they did, it's I didn't see that coming. I was expecting this to be a blowout. And then I had this feeling, and then again, and I don't know, man. I think this series changed. I think the whole complexion of this series has changed too, because I myself had the series going back 2-0. Many other people had the series going back 2-0 to Miami, and a lot of people felt sweep. Some people felt in 5, like including myself, and there was others that thought 6. But the others that thought 6 were, I feel like, a lot fewer. So now the 5 or sweep guys are over here like, wow, I think the series is going to be a good one, man.
Oh, okay. I'm irritated. I don't think that much of this. Bam Adebayo, 21-9. Jimmy Butler, 21-9. 9 on the assist. Vincent Strus and Duncan Robinson combined for 47 points. Nikola Jokic drops 41 in, obviously, the losing effort, 111-108 loss. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. really no-shows in tonight's game. I voiced my displeasure towards the end of the game on what I saw as one-way officiating when Denver had the ball versus when Miami had the ball. The no goaltend, that was a huge play, it turns out. The Jimmy Butler phantom foul that led to a 3-point play, that turns out to be a big play. And I get it. In the playoffs, in the finals, in the course of everything, you're going to have a few that stand out. To be fair, Denver lost focus for a solid 4 minutes. It cost them the game tonight. But what I saw that was very impressive on Miami's side is that they had to make Jokic basically only hurt you one way, which was by putting the ball in the basket. He worked very hard for his 41 points. But what really hurt him tonight is that he did not have the ability to get the ball to open guys and consistently pad up those assist stats. He was exhausted too, because he really worked hard tonight. But, we'll see. Tyler Hero is going to be coming back for game 3, it appears. And my concern would be, is Tyler Hero going to hurt them at this point? Is he going to mess up the mojo that they got going on? I think it's a reasonable question. I really do. And, just timely 3-point shooting from Miami, coming from all sorts of different sources. Jimmy Butler was not shooting the ball well up until about the final 5 minutes of the game. But, he made some big plays when needed. Bam Adebayo, he is gradually becoming one of the game's best centers. We talk about Jokic being the best in the league at what he does in his position, but Bam Adebayo has really grown up in terms of just his overall game during the course of these playoffs. And, going into the playoffs, you say, okay, Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero and everyone else. Right now it's Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and about 5 other guys that could contribute on any given night. But,
That's what we saw tonight. I mean, this is the same Miami team. They were down by 8 in the fourth quarter. 11 earlier on in the game, 8 in the fourth quarter. While we can make excuses for the goaltending, we can make excuses for the phantom call, this or that. That was still after Denver giving up a lead.
Yeah.
So that's why I buy more into this, because if it was a close game the whole time, early on you text me yourself and said, "Come on, Denver, go up by 20." And it seemed like it was going that way, but I read further into this because it wasn't like it was a 3 to 7 point game the whole way. It was early on, it seemed like it was going to be a blowout. And we can talk about the ref calls, the late calls and stuff, the missed calls, but I think it's a lot bigger than that, man. That's just me. That's just me.
Well, they deserve to win. And, if you're looking for the referees to be the end all be all while you win or lose, the reality is that you didn't do enough to win. If I'm a Denver fan, basically,
I'm nervous.
No, I'm not nervous. The way I see it is Jokic got no help from his 2 or his 3, and they lost by 3 points. And they played pretty porous in that fourth quarter. I would not hit the panic button. But I am very critical in my thinking of that being down 3, why did they not call a timeout? I never think it's a good idea to have to rush a shot like that. I
liked it, man. I liked it. I liked leaving. I'm a firm believer in not stopping momentum. And whenever your team has come back over the last few minutes to make it a game after you had the lead you had, and you did, what was it, an 11-2 run, I believe it was, to that point. You did that without stopping the play, so you don't want to let the defense recover. You've had all the momentum. I'm all for it. There was multiple threes that were made by Denver in those closing 97 seconds.
Let me ask you a question. Was it a good shot? I don't think so.
Was it a good shot? I thought it was the right shot. Because who else are you going to put the ball? Like, who else's hands are you going to put the ball in? Jokic? They're not going to let him get the ball at the top of the key.
You draw up a play. I'm sorry. I do not agree. Yeah, I get it. You had them on their heels. But that's the basket you absolutely have to make because you don't have the luxury of missing it. I wouldn't call the timeout.
But here's why. It did not allow Miami to get the defensive substitutions in the game and to be able to have the right scheme out there for whatever Denver was going to put on the court.
I get it. But if they're in that situation again in the series, there will be a timeout called. I'm sorry. It's low percentage. It's low percentage. It's very low percentage.
I liked it.
You have 2 timeouts. Use one.
Show trust in your players.
No, I get it. You can show all the trust you want, but they were huffing and puffing and they were exhausted. You call a timeout. Oh man! But as far as the series goes moving forward, as I already stated, I am not overly worried. I will say this though: Miami did show that they have been there before, whereas the Denver Nuggets, I feel, were getting a little too much in their heads with the crowd booing, with everyone just being very irate with what they thought was some poor officiating down the stretch, and I think Denver allowed it to, alter their focus. And I think that's ultimately a huge reason why they lost this game. Game 3 in Miami, it's going to be good. Potential Tyler Hero return. But I like Denver inside of 6. I still think Miami will win one. It'll probably be game 3 or 4. Denver is the better team. Denver's going to win this series. When you play that poorly in the fourth quarter, and when you have those unforced errors, which they did, they were playing kind of sloppy, and you only lose by 3, and you didn't get a contribution from your second and third best players offensively, the contribution that you expected, yes. But they have to do a better job of floor spacing because Jokic, essentially the strategy was let him go off and don't let anybody else beat you. But Denver will make the necessary adjustments, I believe. Whew.
That's why I love sports, man, because I'm seeing the other way around and I'm thinking about a certain series in the early 2000s, baseball 3-0. I'm thinking about 3-1 and with the Warriors and the Cavaliers. There's a lot of things I'm thinking about, but now we don't, like, I feel like that story is no longer there. So now the reality has set in.
I'm not taking too much away from this. I'm really not.
I know you're not. I know you're not. That's what I love about it.
I am not.
That's what makes it beautiful.
I'm not taking too much away from this. I think Denver lost the game, not necessarily that Miami won it, but the bottom line is the series is tied 1-1. Message received. My New York Yankees take 2 out of 3 from the Los Angeles Dodgers. 4-2 on the West Coast trip. This is what's most important to me. Domingo Germán, 6.2 innings pitched, 1 earned run. Anthony Volpe hit the 2-run blast in the ninth that really put it out of reach, gave the Yankees that little bit of comfort that they needed. This was a well-played ball game on both sides. I want to say that. The starting pitching on both sides was immaculate. And when Germán gave up his 1 earned run, it was on an 0-2 count, 2 outs to JD Martinez, and he left the curveball hanging. I do not understand why he threw that pitch. I would have preferred that maybe you go high and outside, or you try to get somebody to chase, or go off speed and a little bit outside. But you do not leave that thing hanging against a guy who has a history hurting the Yankees going back to his days earlier in his career. But this is my issue with that. Okay. IKF, super timely bunt. Yankees' first 2 runs were scored on blippy little bouncers inside the infield. I think you got to give a shout out to third base coach Luis Rojas, who was very aggressive with not only Bowers, but also Anthony Rizzo, who's not exactly known for his speed. Aaron Judge did not play tonight. I think it's more of a maintenance kind of situation. He did take a hard fall into the wall. He actually became one with the wall during game 2 of this series. I think with the day off on Monday, and with the Chicago White Sox coming to town, I think it's a maintenance day more than anything. A positive that I got to say also with this lineup, Giancarlo Stanton, looking good. His double really set the table for the Yankees to put this game out of reach. And I also got to say that Aaron Boone pushed the right buttons tonight. Germán pitched well. Right around that 100-pitch threshold, he pulled him out after the infield hit, which followed that home run. Germán pitched well. He left with a good attitude, very confident. Got plenty of pats on the backs. Headed back to the dugout. Clay Holmes, nice bridge, straight to Wandy Peralta, each recording 4 outs. So it's a tailor-made situation that you hope you get. When you get your starter almost going 7, and then you get your 8th inning and your 9th inning. And 8th and 9th is really by committee right now. It's all about matchups. Aaron Boone decided to bring in Wandy for the lefty-lefty matchup against Freddie Freeman. But a quality victory against a quality team. The Los Angeles Dodgers are legitimate World Series contenders. So to take 2 out of 3 on the road and to, go 4-2 on a road trip, you got to feel good if you're the Yankees, and this makes you feel good about the game you let slip away against a middle-of-the-road Seattle team, which should have been a sweep. Proud of the Yankees. Coming back home, the fans are going to be happy. And it was a game we needed to win because we didn't get any help today. We did not receive any help. The Boston Red Sox did not do what we needed them to do against the Tampa Bay Rays, and the New York Mets lost to the Blue Jays. So I am very pleased with the Yankee effort. Baltimore put a beat down on the Giants today.
You know who did sweep the Mariners, though?
Yes, your Texas Rangers.
My Texas Rangers.
You did.
Look, man, the one thing I will say that I liked about this game was keeping your trust in a young 22-year-old shortstop in Anthony Volpe. Yes. I thought that was huge, man. And I like the fact that I had texted you, and I was like, you guys can steal a run in this 9th inning. You're going to win this game.
Indeed.
And then not only did you get
you also mentioned that you wanted them to bunt.
Yeah, I right before that, I said, man, I would have definitely bunted right there.
Yep.
Because, because I bunted down the third. I'm going to get my runner home. It's that simple.
I was nervous, dude. I was nervous because it just had that feel in the air. First of all, Herman, it looked like he might have tweaked something. He worked his way out of it. I don't know if you saw that play earlier in the game, around the fifth inning. He responded well. They took a time to let him have a few pitches. He showed some real guts today. And I think responding in a massive way after that suspension, this was a confidence builder for him and a much needed one, because I don't know if you're aware, but Nestor Cortez is making an IL trip now. So
no, I was not aware of that.
This was
10 day or 15 day. What are we talking about?
I'm gonna have to look it up. It was literally right before the game started that I found this out, and I was really locked into the game where I was kind of keeping my phone away from me for the most part until the latter innings. But quality victory, and these are the kind of series the Yankees need to win, because that AL East is going to be tight all year. Dodgers are in a very good position. San Diego Padres are underachieving.
What do you think was bigger? What do you think was bigger? The New York Yankees winning to keep that 6-game gap, or the Los Angeles Dodgers losing and staying now tied for first with the D-backs?
I think this had a lot more to do in terms of importance for the Yankees to get this series win, because while I understand that the Dodgers and D-backs are very tight in that West race right now, the Dodgers have been there, done that, and spit it out in terms of what it takes to be where you need to be over the course of 162. This is uncharted territory for the Diamondbacks. And, I don't think the Dodgers, even if they should succumb and fall into a wild card scenario, are going to be like sweating it out when it comes to these other wild card teams. Whoever finishes second in the National League West, similar to whoever finishes second in your division, the American League West, is going to be a very strong wild card. And as far as the other two wild cards in the National League go, I don't share those sentiments as the strength, but I do share that sentiment for pretty much everybody that's making the playoffs in the American League, with the exception of the Central champion. I consider a legitimate contender to a team that could go to the World Series. But before we move it along to an accomplishment that your manager made, I do want to piggyback off of what you said about Anthony Volpe. I've noticed on a lot of handles, social media, a lot of reports, that some were worried that the pressure of being a rookie, hitting below the Mendoza line, going into today, he was only hitting 188, but he has had a flair for the dramatic. And, the man that he's essentially replacing, IKF, has been an excellent teammate. Wherever Aaron Boone asks him to serve, he will do it. Left field, center field, shortstop for the occasional day off for Volpe. Anywhere he is needed, he will be there, and he's even an emergency catcher. But I think that's IKF's way of telling his manager, I want to be part of something special here, and I want to help the team in any way I could. They have a nice chemistry going right now. And even Aaron Judge, not playing today, but super, super involved with every pitch, talking to his hitters, the eye test of what he's seeing going on the mound, and that's what being a captain looks like. Always involved in the game, even when he's not active, similar to a Garrett Cole, who does the same thing when he's not pitching on his off days. I think Garrett Cole one day will be a manager, or at minimum a pitching coach.
I think I was going to say a pitching coach. And, speaking of pitchers, by the way, before we move it along, Cortez, he's going to the 15-day DL or IL, but he's got an MRI that he has to take either tomorrow or Tuesday to find out the severity. So as of right now, it is the 15-day IL.
Thank you for the info. And I'm not going to lie, it has me a little nervous because we're already down Frankie Montez to God knows when. It might be August. It might not be at all this year. Rodon, part of the reason why he was placed on the 60-day wasn't necessarily about his progress. It was more about a procedural situation because of where we are in the season. But still, it's concerning when you pay a man that kind of money and he hasn't contributed yet. But, the Yankees have a lot of questions. Domingo Germán stepped up in a big way today, and that was massive.
Yeah, and I think it brings the question about you guys are now being further tested, the Yankees are, as far as you're missing, like you said, Rodon, you're missing Montes, and now Cortez, where we don't know right now. But it brings the question, the trade deadline is around the corner. Is there a pitcher out there that the Yankees could acquire that would kind of help heal that wound? Because right now, I'm not going to ring the bell right now with this Yankees team because offensively, you guys are playing great offense.
Yeah, I'm
And
very pleased with that part.
your bullpen has been playing great as well.
Lights out
But
bullpen.
I think you need a pitcher now. I think now you need a pitcher because there's too many question marks. Who is that pitcher that the Yankees could go and acquire that could help them keep the pace, whether it's third place, second place, or even winning the East?
Okay, good question. There's a couple of guys that come to mind, but I'm going to disqualify Sonny Gray because I don't think the Yankees want to take a chance again, given the poor experience that he had, going back to his time as a Yankee. He's been successful everywhere else. I actually think Sonny Gray would be a great addition to your team. I think Sonny Gray would be a great addition to possibly your rivals in Texas, the Astros. They could potentially be in on that. I'm sure if you don't get him and if we don't, well, I'm not really interested in Gray, even though I know he's a good pitcher. I just don't think it works for New York. Corbin Burns is the guy from the Milwaukee Brewers. And I could see our buddy John Olson cursing it out in his office with this crap. But I recently asked Brett on another show, are the Brewers going to make a necessary move to do right by the fan base? And he's like, no, they'll piss people off again. And I tend to agree with Brett. Corbin Burns would be that guy. But given the money that you put into Rodon, given the fact that Clark Schmidt is gradually gaining confidence, given the fact that you saw what Herman did today, Garrett Cole is amongst the top 3 or 4 pitchers in the AL right now. I am not convinced that the Yankees are going to make a move because of the fact that I think that they really have that high of a confidence in their bullpen, which is extremely deep. But it really depends. You got to see what these next few weeks look like, because if things are getting shaky, I could see the Yankees potentially making a move. And Luis Severino, while he has pitched well, I'm going to try to forget about what happened in game 1 of this series. He does have a history of being injured himself. And, are the Yankees going to bank on Severino being okay? You can't bank on Montes. Nobody knows when Rodon's coming in. So, yes, there could be a potential trade. I think Milwaukee would be the best candidate. But to throw a couple of other names out there, just for shits and giggles, maybe reuniting with former Ranger and former Yankee Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn could be a guy that can be a little more of an affordable option where you could almost be like, okay, and thank you, and maybe he doesn't return the next year, but somebody that could fill a need for the time being. But I do think the Yankees are going to give Clark Schmidt and Domingo Germán every opportunity to earn their way before they try to go outside the organization.
At the current position right now, I think what I'm going to be keeping an eye on, honestly, is while I love the Corbin Burns, I'd like that you don't want to go the Sonny Gray way because it didn't work once. While I think it would actually work this time around,
I just don't know if the Yankees would be willing to take that chance again.
Right. No, and I get that part. But I think I just have this feeling that the NL East and the AL East is going to be involved in the trade. And you could talk about Aaron Nola, you could talk about Zach Wheeler, you could talk about Max Scherzer, and those are the 3 guys that stand out the most.
Scherzer would be interesting for your team because it would reunite him with DeGrom.
We're not going to go for Scherzer. If anything, we're going to go after Sonny Gray, or we're going to go after oh man.
I don't think Lance Lynn would be the worst idea to bring him back to Texas.
No, he wouldn't be. I just don't. It doesn't feel.
I mean, dude, even Cleveland. You got to start thinking that Cleveland, similar to Minnesota, could be sellers.
I think they're sellers.
I'm just not convinced that they want to send Shane Bieber, or I think Tristan McKenzie is safe, but maybe not. But I don't think that they want to move a Shane Bieber in the American League. I think they might want to send him elsewhere, but we don't know that yet.
See, when I look at Terry Francona and I look at that Guardians team, if there's one thing they would do is send Shane Bieber to Texas. That's the one pitcher I'm going to keep an eye on because of the fact that There's just always been that personal vendetta that he's had against the New York Yankees. And he also is a true coach that hates what the Astros did in 17.
No, I get it, but he's the manager, not the general manager. But I get it. I'm sure that his words,
yeah.
I'm sure that his words will move upstairs. But then again, I don't know if the Guardians are going to try to be patient. That division is bad. There's no reason to think. There's no reason to think that they can't.
Trade. No, if we see a Sonny Gray trade, then Shane Bieber is not going, because that means the Guardians have control of that division. If we see a Shane Bieber trade, that means the Twins just finally gave up.
I think the Twins are more likely to make a deal before the Guardians do, because I think the Guardians realize that, hey, we're not having the best start, but this is still a very winnable division. And I think the Guardians have to know on some layer that they are underachieving, that they are better than what their record would suggest. The team we played tonight, the Los Angeles Dodgers. If the Mets fall out, the Mets are a 500 team right now. I don't have any reason to believe the Mets are going to be okay. They're only, I think, a game or two out of that last wild card. But I'm sorry. Even if they were to qualify for the playoffs, I don't think the Mets are making any noise this year. I really don't see it. But I think they're tweeners. Right now, through 60 games or so, they're 30-30. I am not convinced that they even know if they're going to be buyers or sellers. But given that Uncle Stevie threw a lot of money around and he's trying to make a point that this is supposed to be a championship caliber team, it's hard for me to think that they're sellers, because the time is now. But I will say this, and I said this in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken, Buck Showalter could be on the block to get chopped if the Mets miss the playoffs this year and just have a very underwhelming second half.
All things considered, I think this Mets team is now focused on 2024.
They got to be, and that's part of the reason why you don't necessarily want to move too many parts. But Max, given his age, could be a moving
the one guy. That's the one guy you move. That's the one guy you move, man. And I've been calling for that move. I
would consider moving on from Vogelbach too. I'm not the biggest Vogelbach fan, but see what happens.
But I think Scherzer's the guy, because you're talking about age and you're talking about money. And you have a young Kodai Senga who has been pitching phenomenally for this.
He has been their best.
And you paid so much for Justin Verlander. So you go move on from Max Scherzer. You go trade him to a contender that also has that one pitcher or whatever in the minor leagues that's ready to come up now. Hey, maybe you're right. Maybe Max Scherzer is coming to Texas, and that's where we trade Jack Leiter to.
You literally just finished the sentence that was in my brain. I was going to say, if the Rangers make the play for Scherzer, it is Leiter. Leiter is part of that deal.
And what a story that would be for that city, where Al Leiter, a great New York Met pitcher, pitched, that his son goes there. Come on now.
That is a nice little storyline, and one that I didn't think that deeply into. But yes, that's a great point, Zap. Speaking of your team, I want to move this along to quite an accomplishment over the course of a great career, one to be proud of. Bruce Bochy climbs to 18th on the all-time wins list amongst managers in Major League Baseball. Your Texas Rangers win behind another dominant Nathan Eovaldi performance. Seven innings pitched, 0 earned runs. Right now, in the absence of Jacob deGrom, he is your best pitcher, and that's not really debatable.
It's not debatable, man, but it's not only Nathan. It's the pitching of Martin Perez. It's the pitching of John Gray. It's the occasional pitching of Heaney, but it's the pitching of our bullpen. It's the pitching all around, and not to mention our first place hitting in all of baseball. It's last year, it wasn't so much the hitting. We had hitting. We needed pitching. Nathan has more than surpassed my expectations for the year. And this guy who had a rough start to the season, while he was, I believe, 2-1 to start, it was still rough. He was getting picked apart. The Philly series, like you mentioned earlier today, is the first one that comes to mind. But then he has just made a complete turn. Again, I was there for one of them. It was against your team. And the way he pitched that night to pitch a complete game, shutout, was beautiful. Nathan Eovaldi right now, man, is putting Texas in a great position where when we're talking about DeGrom, will he come back and be our ace, or would he be better suited to be the long reliever if they go trade for another pitcher, or would he be the $37 million closer? Like these are good problems to have in Texas.
Well,
these are very good problems to have.
Given the fact that today's MLB, I'm not going to say the whole league has converted to this train of thought, but we're seeing it with my New York Yankees. Last year, Clay Holmes was the penciled-in closer for the most part. This year, closing out ball games in terms of a bullpen as a unit sometimes comes down to matchups where, okay, today, Boone's looking at his lineup card for the other guys. His starter just got him to the seventh or just before the seventh. He brings in Holmes. He's going to give me 2 innings. And then he's thinking, okay, if things go to plan, Freddie Freeman's going to be coming up when it really matters. That's when I go bring in my lefty Peralta. Now, maybe if the lefty was coming in a little earlier or a round of lefties, he may have put in Peralta earlier. I guess what I'm trying to say is, and I mentioned this to you off air, when I think about that, DeGrom will always have the starter mentality. That makes him even more of a dog if you bring him out of the pen. And if he gets acclimated and takes pride in a role like that, because similar to my New York Yankees dynasty of the 90s, he could essentially be your Ramiro Mendoza. I'm not saying that they're going to do that, but given the fact that this man has had so many injuries going back to his time in Queens, but when he's been healthy, he's always considered a top 5 pitcher. Yes, indeed. It's something worth monitoring. It's something worth considering because your team is leading the way in run scoring. Your team is getting more out of your rotation, not named DeGrom, than I think anyone expected. You have an MVP candidate in Marcus Semien. You have Seager, who is a force. You have Garcia, who is a force. They're playing for each other. Bochy has this team probably a year ahead of schedule. They're replacing what many thought the Mariners would be. I myself thought it was going to be the Mariners. And I have to think you're in win now mode. So I don't think anything's off the table. And it also depends on if DeGrom has another IL stint. It could be like they do in other sports, like management of a budget of how much he could go. So yes, given the fact that his absence hasn't really hurt you, the pen could be calling for him. It is a possibility.
Who is the one manager that kind of, I don't want to say resurrected, but kind of bring to light the career of many good pitchers in the city of San Francisco during the early 2000s up until the early 2010s?
This guy.
That was Bruce Bochy. And then when I see a Tim Lincecum, who was a guy that kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then you talk about Matt Cain, who ended up over there. And then you could talk about Sergio Ramos. I mean, there's so many guys.
There were a lot of reclamation projects that happened over there on his watch.
And that's kind of what you see.
And even at Madison
right
Bumgarner,
now.
I think you could say he overachieved.
Yeah. I mean, the guy went there, and I mean, there's not many pitchers that can hit home runs until today, and that's your MVP over there. But no, I like Bruce Bochy, man. It's the effect, and I think it's because the guy knows how to use what he has, and we see it on full display. Man. He's
the most credible manager. He's the most credible manager you guys have had since Ron Washington.
Oh, and
we all know what Ron Washington did, taking you to back-to-back American League pennants. So
what he does. And what he does like as a third base coach or a hitting coach, the guy knows baseball. And one thing he knows is he cares. He cares about his players. And that's what Bruce Bochy is.
Yeah, Bruce Bochy is a great cultivator of getting guys to over excel and at minimum meet the potential that they should have to begin with. But he's a hell of a manager. Congrats to him. When you think about the history of baseball and to think that you're within the top 20 in wins, that is no small feat. And he's done it with a litany of different rosters and different organizations. Before we move it along to some NFL chatter, I do want to make a mention of something that Zappy and I kind of casually spoke on. We pitch a potential MLB trade or two that we both think will make sense. When we say or two, it involves the same ingredients, just a couple of different add-ons. Um, I think you said something about wanting to build this up a little, so I'm going to let you kind of drive this before I share our dual thoughts on this.
Well, I mean, for the last year, maybe a little longer, maybe a little less, it's the talk has been about this young man over in Los Angeles that, I mean, we saw what happened with Mike Trout. We saw what happened with Albert Pujols. This is a city where it's your career goes to die. And now insert a name, a Shohei Ohtani, where it's like, he's going to move on. He's not going to be an Angel. And we have the trade deadline coming up. And now we're talking about the teams that make the most sense. We've been in agreement it's the West Coast teams, but which West Coast teams have the most to offer? I have brought up the idea about maybe the Red Sox, the Yankees, maybe my Rangers. But the fact of the matter is he wants to stay close to Japan.
Yeah, so which would cancel the team in Queens or the team in the Bronx.
Exactly. It would cancel a lot of baseball, but the one thing that stays alive is the Mariners. I would even say the Oakland Athletics, because that would be a great way to show up to Las Vegas, but you have nothing to offer.
Yeah, there's nothing to offer. It's an organization that's completely in transition, and you don't want to waste your prime years playing for a team that is starting from the ground up, because he's already experienced his fair share of mediocrity in a failed Angel situation. But this is a couple of scenarios I put together along with your idea, because this is your idea. And I did mention the Padres as a potential destination, but when I mentioned it, I was thinking more along the lines of he being a free agent, not necessarily he being a midseason trade. And this kind of changes the dynamic of diving into some of the names that could be moving around. The San Diego Padres received Shohei Ohtani and an add-on. The Los Angeles Angels received Fernando Tatis, Joe Musgrove, and Jake Cronenworth. If not Tatis, maybe Manny Machado. If not Joe Musgrove, maybe Yu Darvish. And I do want to add a player that could potentially move with Ohtani. Guy that sort of makes sense if you're giving up Cronenworth. How about this guy? Because this guy is versatile similarly to Cronenworth in positions he could play. How about Brandon Drury? Brandon Drury plays first, second, third. He might not be the worst option if you're going to be giving up Cronenworth. I don't think I want to make this clear to the viewer. Not all these guys are going to get moved. If it's not Tatis, maybe Machado. The reason why the Angels would want Tatis is because he's not making the money that Machado's making yet. The reason why the Angels would want Musgrove and not Yu Darvish is because Musgrove is in a better place in his career right now than Yu Darvish. But, like anything else, if the Padres are getting Shohei, they're going to want to keep the better players. The Angels want to make sure that they could still kind of be relevant. And I think the craziest thing in all of this is that Mike Trout is still stuck there. Maybe Anthony Rendon potentially could be a guy in that deal going to the other side. Say if you move the Machado, maybe replace him with a Rendon.
So I thought initially, that as I was building up to it, I was going over the West Coast teams. My choice is obviously the Padres. The Dodgers are going to be the dark horse, of course, just because it's the Dodgers. But when I look at the Padres, I look at their roster, I look at what they have done over the last couple of years. And first of all, you're talking about a young guy in a Fernando Tatis that has just came off an 80-game suspension. You're talking about a guy that has been in trouble, and you kind of you brought in Xander Bogaerts, and Tatis has not exactly been that picture that you want on your team. Here's a guy that's on the outfield dancing around every time every opposing team is yelling. You don't want that kind of attention coming to your team. You don't want it. So that's why I included Fernando Tatis. While he's a great talent, you don't want it. You got Xander Bogaerts for that exact reason.
I think the reason the allure of keeping Tatis is and moving Machado, Machado's making more. And when you think about contract moving here, contract moving there, they have to find something in the realm of supplementing that.
Yes, but then I look at Machado, who, I mean, really, look at this team. Look at this team. You have a team is young, and you also have a team that's old. So Manny Machado is what, 30 now, I believe. Fernando Tatis is a little younger. I move on from both of them. This is why you brought in Juan Soto. This is why you have brought in the pieces you have brought in, and this is why you move on from both of them, and you include a pitcher because it's going to require a lot to be able to get a guy that you're going to sign for the next 13, 15 years.
This is the other caveat to this. You trade for him now, you have to figure out provisions of, like, you're going to be here for a while, because that's the other part. Part of the reason why the Angels might not even trade him at all is not because they don't want to trade him. It's because other teams might not be down to take that risk for half a season and then have him go sign a mega deal with a division rival. Because I think the scary thing about something like this for the Padres is that you're gutting your roster for a guy that you might not retain. That is scary.
Yeah, and that's why I think it comes down to West Coast teams only. If you're the Yankees and you do that, then that's on you. You already knew the situation.
And they won't.
But no, they won't. But that's what I'm saying is I think if he ends up in Seattle, Oakland, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, whatever the case
I
may
literally
be,
see
content.
this. If he gets dealt, he's going to the National League West. I do not see the Los Angeles Angels trading him to a division rival. I just don't see it.
No, I know. I don't either. But what I'm saying is he will sign a long-term deal no matter what if he ends up in the West Coast. It doesn't matter who he gets. That's the point I'm trying to make. If he gets traded to Texas.
This question. I get it, but it opens up this question. Why do all that when you could sign him in free agency? That's the other part. The reason why I think the Padres might do this is because the Angels might welcome this because they want to get something for him as opposed to just watching him walk away for nothing.
You know why you do it?
Also, the Padres suck right now.
You know why you do it? Because of what you just said right there. You move the contracts when you can to be able to bring in the guy that you're going to have to pay no matter what after this season, whether it's free agency or whether it's you trade for him. And then if you trade for him, not only that you get rid of the contracts you were probably going to get rid of after the season, you also guaranteed that you didn't have to not only not get him, but lose the players you're going to probably cut because of the contracts.
And another interesting caveat to all this, boy, now he's going to win the MVP in each league in the same year. America's MVP.
Hey, I mean, there's a certain guy that has one really big award that he did in the American League and National League. You brought it to my attention. I thought there was others. You know, it can be done, but I'm not going that route. I just think that if Shohei goes to either of those teams, he will be content. And I think Arizona might be the other team, which that would be interesting to see.
I do want to make a mention, and he's not going to Arizona. I do want to make a mention, Freddie Freeman not getting a lot of love when I think about the bigger scale of the NL MVP side of this. I do think that he should be a little more considered. It seems like Acuna is the more popular pick, but that will be decided in the American League right now. If it's right now today, it's Aaron Judge, but there's some time left. But yes, Judge looks good.
But the more popular pick is Shohei, because now it goes back to what you were saying about Freddie Freeman.
I don't know about that. To be honest with you, from time to time, I actually believe that it's the media that shoves Shohei. I don't think fan for fan, Aaron Judge is not as popular as Shohei. There's a lot more Yankee fans in this country than the Angel fans.
I think Aaron Judge is I think we're going to be soon talking about him breaking 62. I really, truthfully do.
Dude, he's literally on pace of last year on so many metrics. We're going to move this along to the NFL. We've got about 15 minutes left. NFL rumors, DeAndre Hopkins, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook. Not the most reputable tweet I saw, but I do want to make a mention for DeAndre. 4 teams that are potentially out of this are the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Giants, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Buffalo Bills. That would be 4 teams right there. I think it's kind of common sense just when you look at the lack of salary cap each of them have. And after seeing the glowing endorsement from upper management in KC about them trying to make Kadarius Toney a more seasoned player, maybe indeed they don't think they need D-Hop. I mean, after all, this team has won 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years without him. Buffalo Bills, I already stated my case for them. They need him, but I don't think they're going to get him. There's another guy on this list I think the Buffalo Bills might get, though.
Who's that?
And that guy is going to be Dalvin Cook, because while I understand that he made a comment a few months back, I think he's actually warming up to the idea of playing with his younger brother, because I actually think Dalvin Cook might be in a position where he's like, this could alleviate some of my workload. And if you're going to take a back seat eventually in a year or two, wouldn't you rather take it to a beloved family member as opposed to just another player?
Hell no. I want to beat my brother out. I'm not going to let my older brother, whose career is on the decline, come and take my number 1 position. No. But yeah, that's definitely one of the teams.
James, the point I'm making is they're literally a 50-50 split, similar to a Kamara and Jamal Williams, similar to A.J. Dillon and a Aaron Jones.
Dude,
I believe
Miami. He's going to Miami.
I don't see it. We'll see.
He's from Miami. You're talking about going to play. You're going to go play for Mike McDaniel, who now Mike McDaniel has a running back that fits that system, and it's going to take a lot of the pressure off of Tua.
We'll see.
Oh yeah,
we'll see.
I think that's a good one. I think that's the best fit. As much as I want to see Dalvin Cook come to Dallas, that's the best fit. Send him home. Let him go finish his career home.
We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of variables. What are we chasing? Is it just that? Does he think he has a better chance of winning a Super Bowl with Tua Tagovailoa, or does he feel he has a better chance of winning a Super Bowl with Josh Allen? That's also
I'm going to say. We're at that point of the career when Josh Allen made that huge jump. Now it's time to see if Tua can. So I'm going to go with Tua. I like Miami's defense better. There's that part of it. I like the weapons better in Miami. While you still have Stephon Diggs, I like the idea of a Jalen Waddle. I like the idea of a Tyreek Hill. I like the idea that you have 2 receivers that are going to force the defense to at least stay spread.
These are all
open things up. No, I like it. As much as I love Josh fell in my opinion.
Yeah, he fell this year, but I've seen other quarterbacks that have made the Hall have the off year and then come back. I mean, Brett Favre lost coordinators. It showed. He made adjustments. He got better. But I will say this. The biggest thing with quarterbacks is availability. Who's more likely to finish a season healthy, Josh Allen or Tua Tagovailoa?
I don't know, because Josh Allen finished the year with that Tommy John injury that clearly affected his game, and we have not seen him play since then. So I don't know.
I get it. But, yeah, no. I think many would speculate that Tua Tagovailoa is probably 1 concussion away from retirement. So there's that caveat. Tyreek Hill has already stated that at the end of this Dolphin contract, he's going to retire early to follow other things in life. There's a lot of variables. And I don't know. It's going to be interesting. There's a lot of sell points. He's from Miami. Your brother plays on the other team. They're division rivals. That could be fun on a lot of ways to be rivals or to be teammates. Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, since we're talking about running backs. I pitched to you recently that I think the New England Patriots could be a dark horse for a Derrick Henry. And when you look at a division that is thoroughly sprinkled with Pro Bowl quarterback talent with Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, and then you have a guy like Mac Jones entering year 3, who hasn't really done quite a lot yet. And I think some would speculate that he might not be the guy. How do you cut the distance on teams that got you beat at the quarterback position? You run the ball. They already have Ramondre Stevenson, an improved O-line. If the Patriots want to hang around and be a surprise in that AFC East, I think that's the player you have to get.
Um, I think the Patriots is a very good possibility. I think the team that makes the most sense. This is not me having my fan cap on. I think it's Dallas because if there's one thing that Derrick Henry has always been in his career is a guy that is he prefers not to be vocal. He would much rather just play. And if you insert him into a Dallas Cowboys offense with Tony Pollard, and then you insert him with now having a receiver again that can move in the Brandon Cooks to replace Amari Cooper, I think this guy comes into Dallas and he's no longer having to be that number one guy. He doesn't have to be the focal point. He doesn't have to be the guy getting interviewed first every time. He can go back to being the guy he was at Alabama that was surrounded by talent, and he just had to show up. The other teams to me that I think makes sense for Derrick Henry, it would have been Philly as one of them, but I just can't see Philly making that move right now.
Nah, not with the Smith situation.
So I look at the teams that have the most contract space. Dallas now is number 4. We have $22.1 million. Some of that money is going to go to the re-signing of Trayvon Diggs, and some of that money is probably going to go to the re-signing of CeeDee Lamb. But Dallas never goes this far into this early into the season with this much money, meaning they're going to make a move. It's going to be a linebacker. I see it being Deion Jones. But I think Derrick Henry just makes so much sense. I wanted it to be Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin Cook and Tony Pollard are pretty much the same kind of player. And Tony Pollard is way ahead of schedule on his recovery. Derrick Henry to Dallas. Even look at Des Bryant's tweet. It's. I think that makes the most sense for Dallas.
Maybe.
And Derrick Henry.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. Any other players that Mike Evans? We haven't really mentioned him a lot. I know he doesn't want to be in Tampa. He's under contract. Do you think he is a potential release or a trade?
I think he is staying put for now. I think he's staying put, and it's simply because you don't have that quarterback contract you have to pay. And they're probably in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. And if there's one thing, if you do end up number 1 ahead of Arizona, which I think it's going to be Arizona, but if you could somehow end up 1 ahead of Arizona, then it's clear it's going to be Caleb Williams. And even if it's Drake May coming out of North Carolina, you want to have the talent around your rookie quarterback next year. It's not going to be Kyle Trask, and it's sure as hell not going to be Baker Mayfield leading the way for them. I would hold on to Mike Evans. I think he's a critical piece, and he's still young enough that you have at least 3 to 5 more years out of him. And if there's one thing you need with a rookie quarterback is a veteran receiver who is not only just a veteran, but a leader on that team. So I don't think Mike Evans goes anywhere. I think he stays put. I think this team is in good position to go draft their quarterback next year, and it's going to be between Drake May, but the Drake May is a consolation prize. Caleb Williams is the prize.
We'll see what happens. I do not have that same sentiment that he wants to be there, and I also am not convinced that after playing with the greatest winner in the league, that he necessarily wants to start over with a rookie quarterback coming in. But we shall see. We shall see.
Here's the point I would make to him is like, hey, you did it with the greatest and you did it with the worst. So no matter what, your skill set is there. You're not going to trade him to the Jets. Are you going to trade Mike Evans to the Jets? Are you going to, if it comes down to you want to play with the greatest, you're not going to trade him to Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. You're not going to trade him to Josh Allen. Yeah, you're just not going to. And you sure as hell not going to trade him to the Eagles or the Cowboys or the 49ers. So it's like, I think he stays put.
For now, he may, and we'll see. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be very interesting as to his landing spot.
3 teams.
I'm gonna keep it as my wild card pick that I think makes sense. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think it makes sense. When I think about the lack of cap space that some of these four teams that I mentioned, obviously you're out because of Cooks. We're out because of cap space and because of a direction that I think my team's taken. The Bills are out cap space. The Chiefs, unless they really do a lot of moving around cap space, I don't think the Chiefs are gonna break their necks to change what's been working. They win Super Bowls. The Detroit
Chiefs just have
Lions
to make one move.
The Detroit Lions make sense, but here's a team that nobody's talking about that still has money to spend. The Chicago Bears have some money to spend.
He's not going to Chicago. He's not. He is ready to win. He's going to go with a guarantee. And while nothing is a guarantee, he's going to go with a team that is ready to win. Chicago is the dark horse for many people, but no. He's not going to Chicago.
My issue with being ready to win comes with a price. He's also ready to get paid. And he's not going to get paid. But Arizona got off the hook by releasing him. He's right now, Arizona's not paying some of that dead money is off the table. He wants 20 a year, similar to what Odell got from Baltimore. If he wants to win and he wants 20 million a year, it's going to be one or the other. I don't think it's going to happen because the teams that give him the best chance to win can't give him that kind of money.
Well, that's why he's not going to sign a 1-year deal. He's going to sign a 2 to 3 year deal where it's not going to be hard on the salary cap this year.
It's also going to be incentive laden because I'll be honest with you. Yes, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I know off air you mentioned Cleveland as a destination.
Yeah, no, and I was going to go back to the Chiefs and talk about they just have to restructure Patrick Mahomes, or they want to make him the highest paid quarterback after the contract that Rodgers got. They go do that. They're going to have a lot of cap space where they can go get DeAndre Hopkins. I think it's down to 3 teams. I think it's down to the Cleveland Browns, being reunited with Deshaun Watson, where they both had their best careers together. And now you insert him into that offense with that offensive line and a very good defense, and Deshaun Watson having a complete offseason where DeAndre is your number 2, Amari Cooper is your number 1, you have Elijah Moore as your number 3. I think that could be a very fun offense to watch, and I think it would go a long ways. I think that's the move that Cleveland needs. But then I look at if he is actually on the downslide of his career, then why not go back home to Houston? I think Houston makes a lot of sense, man. Because we're talking about DeAndre Hopkins. Well, he's pretty quiet if you think about it, and he had a great career in Houston. The marriage ended not because of Houston, but because of Bill O'Reilly, or Bill. What was his name?
O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien. Thank you.
Who's currently calling the plays for the Patriots. But I don't know, dude. If he wants to win, that's not where he goes. And he's not 35. He's 31, is it? 31? 30?
No, he's older than that.
He's older than I don't know.
Oh,
I don't see him going.
No. But he does look like he has lost a step.
Well, it's hard to tell also with the injuries because there's been a lot of – it's hard to tell what he's lost and what he hasn't when the quarterbacks that he's been reduced to playing with in the absence of Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray had his share of issues as well, can't get you the ball to begin with. Colt McCoy ain't going to get you the ball. You can run all the routes you want. Some people will say he might have lost a step, and I myself will question that. But the other side of it is he might have lost interest. So, linking up with a solid quarterback can kind of change your perspective on having a rejuvenation in your career. And another thing, too, the Jets still have some money. I'm not saying that they will, but they could. I mean, the Jets were considering Odell. So I wouldn't say that why wouldn't they consider DeAndre? I think one can make a logical argument that DeAndre is in a better place in his career than Odell is, other than the fact that Odell got paid more than he probably should have by the Baltimore Ravens. At least I think they overpaid him. Anything you want to hit on in the last 40 seconds or so before we get out of here?
Damn, it feels good to be in first place. 3.5 game lead. Damn, it feels good. It's highest scoring offense in baseball. Damn, it feels good. One of the better pitching defenses in baseball. Damn, it feels good. I did not think I was going to say that about my Texas Rangers this year. I thought we would be a wild card. Yes, we still have a lot of season to go, but damn, it feels good.
It does, and it also feels good to take 2 out of 3 from our rivals going back to the old days from Brooklyn. For Zappy, I am Richie. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great